You are officially in the loop. You are now officially in the loop. Let's get to it. Okay, guys, welcome back to In the Loop podcast. I am your host, Jordan Jo Hollabaugh, and I am here today talking with one of the coolest named ladies I think I've ever met. Her name is Criquett Chapman. It's not spelled how you think it'd be spelled either. We've went over that conversation, but we are talking about all things women's rodeo. WRWC is coming up May 12th through the 14th, 2025. We are getting ready for Women's Week and all things fancy burning questions. We'll have that here on this episode too. But Criquett, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So I'm so excited that you're on the podcast. We've went back and forth. Both of our voices have been just a little up and down. So if you guys think our voices are like a little sexy tune today, that's okay. That's what we planned it that way. But we are in the spring. It's hot and heavy. The wind's blowing. Allergies are everywhere. And yeah, we're two women on a mission. And so we've got quite a bit of things going on. But Criquett, tell me a little bit about you're sitting in your office, which if you guys want to go and watch this on YouTube, be sure to go and watch this on YouTube. But one of the things I love is Miss Criquett sitting in her office. She's a working woman. She's a mom, a wife, a roper, and on top of that, she's got a pretty cool job. So tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. I work at Vernon College. I'm the vice president of student services, which means I get to oversee all of our student support programming, things like admissions and financial aid advising. They let me supervise police, believe it or not. And I do a little bit of what you do. I do a little bit of the marketing. I recently took over marketing and recruiting. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of a big scope. At a community college, you wear many hats in the job. Not only do I wear many hats in the job, but then I rope outside. So you got that going both ways. But I am originally from Fort Sumner, New Mexico. So small town girl, grew up as a team roper. Something that's different about me is I'm not from a legacy rodeo or roping family. Both of my parents grew up city kids in Las Cruces and El Paso, and they got into team roping when they were in college. So team roping's all I've ever known. But I remember being shocked when I found out my parents didn't do that also. They didn't do it until they were much older. And so growing up, that's what we did as a family. I did rodeo when I was younger and through probably middle school. And then when I was in high school, we kind of made the decision. I played athletics. So small town, I did volleyball, basketball, track, all the things. So we decided to do that in team rope because team roping, you can pick and choose what you compete in, and it didn't compete with the sports schedule. So I didn't really grow up rodeoing, but I did grow up team roping.
I love it. I did grow up team roping as well, so I'm fellow with you there too. I mean, I did junior rodeo and I rodeoed all the same, but the team roping was where we were passionate about. That's what we did as a family, and we traveled all over the world to team ropings of all likes.
Same. Those are our vacations. People say, "Where do you go on vacation?" Well, we would go to the next USTRC roping, wherever that was back in the day.
And one thing I wanted to talk a little bit about that I think is so cool, and I think this is a total, like, we're totally definitely aging ourselves right here, but sports, you're talking about sports and how you literally played every sport and team roped and rodeoed and you did all the things as a family. Now a lot of kids now are homeschooled and they are still actively in sports, but more so like one sport, and they're just focused on that one sport. Whereas like I remember it went from we played volleyball, then we played basketball, then we did track. Then if there was anything in between you had time for, you did that as well. So talk a little bit about how sports has created you into the competitor that you are today and some of the things that you learned through sports growing up as a kid.
So I'm actually super shy. I was the kid that would hide behind my mom's leg when you tried to talk to me. I've had to learn to speak in front of people. So sports really helped kind of bring that out of me a little bit and give me some confidence in myself. It taught me how to be a competitor in a healthy way, I think. It teaches you, of course, how to work as part of a team, but also those lessons about just how to win and how to be a winner, and that you're not going to be perfect all the time. I was never the most talented person in athletics or in roping or anything, but I've worked hard at it. So I've been successful because I've continued to work and to improve my skills. So you learn that success from failure piece, and the grit and the tenacity and the motivation to keep going, even though everything's not perfect. So I definitely think it helps set the stage for everything that I've done later in life.
Yeah, most certainly. And I love how you said, I maybe wasn't the most talented, but I worked the hardest. And I think that that's one of the things that I think is overlooked so much today is that we all started from the same place, right? There are more people that are athletic or not athletic or anything, but if you have the grit and the tenacity to put the work in, there's really not, I think I heard Trevor Brazile one time say, I am not the most athletic, I am not the most talented, I just work harder than everybody else, and that doesn't take much. And so, I think that anything you set your mind to, and we're talking to people on this podcast over and over again who do that, it's the truth, it rises to the top. The harder you work and the perspective that you have really determines the outcome that you're going to get.
Right. And if you're willing to you've heard people, you don't grow unless you step outside your comfort zone. That's so true. If you were willing to take opportunities that other people would say no to, it's just going to help you continue to build and grow. And like you said, learn those other perspectives and just grow as a person also.
Well, and let's talk about stepping outside of your comfort zone. We were just having this conversation a little bit earlier. You are in the WRWC Women's Rodeo World Championships. You are several different qualifications and I don't know that I want to say certifications. That's definitely not the right word. But you're in several different categories. So you're a limited breakaway roper, you are a pro header, and you are a challenger healer. And so you are in all three different brackets that they offer, which is awesome. But we were talking a little bit about breakaway roping. And you said, I don't love my videos that I've got on here to post because she said, I'm new. Breakaway's the newest thing I'm doing, right? Which I'm like, heck yeah, you go. And you're like, yeah, my horse is stopping on his front end. And I was struggling a little bit. And I'm like, girl, don't worry about that. I've got a horse too that I'm learning how to ride that really stops on his front end too. And you should see some of my videos. I'll share those with you as well because it is not pretty. Martha Angeloni's got a video of me. Actually, as he was stopping on his front end, I got him with my spurs and he kicks up and is almost, kind of give me a little head bump, little buckaroo cowgirl, if you'll may. And I'm sure she'll post that for my birthday. So that'll be great. But yeah, I mean, we're not perfect in any form or fashion. Everybody goes through trials and errors. And like you said, you're just the beginner. So as we talk about that, let's jump into the limited breakaway roping and why you decided to get into that as part of the WRWC.
Well, I've, of course, been watching and been a fan of women roping in general. But then as Breakaway started becoming bigger and more visible, I thought, why don't I try that? Team roping is fun. I've done it my whole life. But, you depend on not only yourself, but your partner. And so Breakaway, whether you like it or not, it's all on you. Good, bad, ugly, fantastic. And so I started, believe it or not, back in the day, I used to throw a natural neck loop all the time. My dad had to teach me to level out my swing so that I had that good head swing. And so I thought, surely I can revert back to that. And I've done some ranch rodeo where we did have to rope the muleys. And so I knew I could, probably catch the neck. Anyway, I like to go fast. I like to rope. And so it seemed like a fun thing to do at the time. I just started last August and I was thinking back to my middle school, junior high rodeo. I never did breakaway. I did steer stopping, barrel race, all the things non-calf because we didn't have a calf horse. Yeah. So literally it's the first time I roped calves aside from muley team roping. So anyway, it's just fun, but also part of me was just wanting to support the cause almost. And if my small entry in a jackpot could help, grow the sport and could help bring visibility, then I'm all in. Plus the competitive nature, I just wanted to try something else and see if I could be good at it.
Well, and I just want to applaud you for I mean, you said like I'm a team roper, right? Which is, it doesn't disqualify you in any form or fashion for breakaway roping, but we get comfortable in what we do, right? And it's like, that's who we are. That's what we do. I'm a team roper. And for you to have the confidence and the courage to step out of that comfort zone to say, hey, I'm going to try this breakaway thing, which I mean, everybody has watched and seen it evolve. It is one of the toughest stinking sports there is to pick you. I mean, you are crazy along with the rest of us. Welcome to the group.
Not to mention, I'm out there with people my daughter's age. My daughter's 16, college girls who are in the prime. And then here's the old lady coming in trying to catch a calf. So, it does take a bit of confidence to do that. But also, just know you're not going to be perfect right away. It's okay. Keep working towards your goals and set those milestones for yourself.
100%. I just want to high five you for saying that because, I started really focusing on breakaway roping when I was 23 years old. And same thing, like I just got to give lessons to a little girl yesterday that was 12 years old, and
Mm.
she's throwing it just as fast as I am today at 34. And I'm like, man,
Yeah.
it just is the sport has evolved so much. The youth is getting involved at such a younger age and competing on stages that, when we were that age, we didn't even think about competing on or
Mm.
anything like that. So, like you said, just being a part of an association that's growing, that's for women, that's just an awesome thing. But on top of that, so the women's rodeo is going to pay out from May 10th to May 17th, 2025, $1.2 million with the Cowgirl Gathering and the women's event. So why would you not take that chance? Like you said, you're cracking out, you're coming in with your breakaway rope, you're coming in the limited. So explain the limited to me a little bit, because I know that's new to our group and we want to really talk about that. What is the limited classifications in the WRWC?
So you can probably give me more specifics, but basically it's either somebody who's a true beginner or somebody maybe later in life who hasn't done it in a while that's kind of coming back, and you have a total earnings that's below a certain level.
Yep.
And so really just kind of like me, trying to get back into, or just not back in, just to get into the sport in general, it gives that opportunity to compete with people that are at your level and not feel like you're competing against Jordan Doe every weekend where you don't have a chance because she's been doing it a while at that pro level. But having opportunity to then grow into the challenger category. And then maybe if you keep going long enough and keep working at it, then you eventually become the pro.
Yeah. Great explanation. You nailed it. I don't need to throw in any of that in there. You nailed it. But yeah, 100%, because it's in steps, right? I look back 10 years ago and I'm not even the same place at all. And it's like I see myself as I've evolved each and every year, each and every, category, from your horsemanship to your rope to competing at different events on different stages. There's so many steps that have to be taken, and it does not happen for very many people in a very fast fashion. Like, it takes time, it takes commitment, it takes, a lot of crazy capabilities to be able to continue to pursue these goals that we have. So talk about some of your other goals. You're, like you said, you're a team roper at heart. That's your first and foremost. But you had a little bit of trouble this year. So as you're fixing to go to Las Vegas and nominate, some things happen within your family and you're not actually qualified yet in the team roping this year. So talk a little bit about that.
Right. As a team roper, my husband and I do it together. And one of our major goals is the World Series finals in Vegas, where you can win a ton of money.
A lot of money.
And so we were rocking along, doing really well together and, placing at, some of the local jackpots in the World Series team ropings. And literally we're practicing the week before. Perfect steer, nice high loper. He catches 2 feet, like nothing seemed wrong. And he cut his thumb off. He dropped a coil and it came down. You know how everybody always says before you even know. It didn't even seem like he was in a wreck. It was like, no.
Oh.
No, of course, because of his thumb, but also the timing and everything. I told him we're going to put you in a bubble from now on between, Thanksgiving and Vegas. So I did go to Vegas to Breakaway, but of course that wasn't where I expected to do the best. I was hoping to do really well in the team roping. But sometimes you hit things like that, barriers like that, and you just have to roll with it. And now my goal will be for next year.
Yep.
I was sitting pretty decent. I think I was like 24th or something in the pro heading. And so I was really hoping to bump up into that top 20. And it just obviously put a damper on that since he was my number one partner. And so I thought, hey, maybe this is just my opportunity to really try to perfect to the best of my ability my breakaway between now and the finals, and then just continue down that journey. And of course, I'm not ever giving up on team roping. It'll just be a goal for next year.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you're like, hey, we're pivoting because we had some obviously changes that were out of our control. But one thing I do love is you still went out there to compete. You go in the breakaway roping, and that's where you got your spot to be a limited roper to come and compete at Fort Worth in the WRWC 2025. And just like we were talking about a little earlier, one of the most exciting things is this year, 20 people are going to get to go and compete at AT&T. So they're taking 3 in every pro division, barrels, breakaway, team roping. And then they're also taking 3 in every challenger division, as well as 2, 1 limited pro breakaway or 1 limited breakaway roper, 1 limited barrel racer. So you, as a limited breakaway roper, could make your way all the way to AT&T to compete at the big money at the end of it. What would it mean to you to get to rope one at AT&T, knowing that you're literally not even competing in breakaway for a year?
I mean, how awesome is that?
That
And
would be so cool.
I obviously don't pro rodeo because I have a career. And so, which is what the WRC is great for. It allows me a chance to compete, even though that's not what I do for a living. And so, how it's one of those opportunities I would never have if it wasn't for the WRC. So now I can have that as a goal. How awesome would that be? We just watched the American Rodeo, which I know was in right across the street, but
Go
still to
live.
be under the big lights and, you know, don't fall off your horse, hope he doesn't jump the barrier, those kind of things. But it would still be awesome to go out there and compete against, people like you who are out there doing it every day and just kind of get your, what is it, 15 minutes of fame, your 1.72 seconds of fame.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't get that long. We're very,
Yeah.
very short. Which is not really
Yeah.
fair now that we say it out loud, but
Yeah.
no,
It's still fun though, to
yeah,
have those type of opportunities for that kind of money and just that kind of venue.
yeah,
The
that
venues
platform.
themselves just make the experience so much more awesome and fun to go to.
Yeah. Well, and I absolutely hope that you get to experience that because one of the things about AT&T, it's jam-packed, it's so full. Like you have never experienced as a competitor hearing and feeling. You can feel the people when they cheer. It's I mean, you have to live it. You can't explain it. It's just something that gives me goosebumps even talking about it. But to know that the WRWC is giving women in rodeo that opportunity, just like you said, you have a career, right? And that was your choice to take that. And everybody, we make choices all day long, right? And so to have that career choice and know that you can still compete, you can still show up on for the big money on the big stages. That's got to really mean something to you, and not just in breakaway. You can do it in team roping. You and I were probably not barrel racers. We might be someday, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, on all different events for women's rodeo. They're adding goat tying next year. So they're just trying to do everything they can to give us the best opportunities they can.
Right, which it's grown so much, obviously, since I started long ago. So there are so many more opportunities. And like you said, the money is there now. And in team roping, we've seen the money grow over time, just in general. But the women's has really come on and provided those opportunities for us. And then now you're adding the other events. It's just a fun time to be a rodeo cowgirl and be able to do our thing.
Well, and talk about your hat as a mom. What that looks like, and you said your daughter's out there breakaway roping too, and you're open with girls at her age. What do you see, and what do you want for your daughter? As 5 years from now, she's going to be 21 years old. 10 years from now, like what do you see that women's rodeo is going to do for her in her career?
Right. I think we're seeing a lot more opportunity for youth in general, a lot for all skill levels. So I've heard people talk on your podcast and others about growing the sport, but starting it with the youth. And there are so many opportunities for them to just get started. Like I said, even if you've never ridden a horse before, all the way up to kind of more advanced and get going and have that opportunity to maybe be pro, whereas I didn't have that when I was younger. And so just to have that for other kids that are my daughter's age or younger, and just to give them, we keep saying opportunity, but it really is just to give them the option that if they want to, it's there. We didn't really have the option, so it didn't matter if we wanted to. We were just practicing, in the backyard arena. So it means so much. And like you said, you can go to the local jackpot and just get started, or you can kind of enter in the bigger ones and go for the big money. Whatever path you want to take, if you just want to dabble in it or you want to go all in and try to go pro, it's all there for you. And it's set. The stage is set, I feel like.
Yeah, you nailed it. The stage is set. And as I'm sitting here we're talking about the opportunities and the options, I have to think like not just in the arena, right? Rodeo will always forever be something that I do and I'm a part of. But even for those kids, and this is branching out here a little bit, but it's like the TV production, Teton Ridge, the Cowboy Channel, the filming, the videography, the photography, like there's so many, the production, the stock contractors, there's so many people that are a part of rodeo making this happen. Sammy Jo Smith is, we always call her our fierce leader, and Pam Minnick, the fairy godmother of the WRWC, like all the women that have been a part of this. Even if you're not swinging a rope or running barrels or anything of that stature, you can still be a part of this. Like they're bringing everybody to be a part of it. So even if rodeo is something you've done as a kid and you're like, hey, I still want to be a part of this, I just don't want to compete. They're creating opportunities through careers for women and men to come and be a part of rodeo, and that can be their career, not just in the arena. That just kind of dawned on me.
Yeah. It's so fun because I'm also a sports fan. So I watch, college basketball, football, but I've also gotten into the WNBA this last year. And just to see it all coming to a head, everyone watches women's sports. You'll see those T-shirts. Even watching March Madness, the UConn game, and the UConn coach mentioned in his interview how many female reporters there were in the room and that he's never seen that before in his entire career. So it's just really a great time for women in sports in general. And I think it's nice that rodeo's right there with, the rest of the country and the other things that are happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're rolling into 2025 Women's Week. We're ready for it. What are you most looking forward to, and how are you preparing?
I am practicing. I'm going to hit up a couple of breakaways between now and then. I'm going to go to the U.S. finals. They have a breakaway there and the Spicer. And then I'll probably go to the Last Chance, even though I'm already qualified, just to get a few runs in before and try to, nominate for next year. So just, you can practice at home all day, but it's different. Everybody knows when you get to a competition, you're in the arena. Things happen that you never thought would happen. So I'm just trying to get as many looks as I can, work on my horse, and try to be prepared because like I said, you never know what's going to come your way, what calf you're going to draw, which horse is going to do. So just be as prepared as possible.
Well, and I love how you said that. That's one of the biggest truths that I think goes overlooked. And you hear it a lot. Like, I'm great in the practice pen. And then when I get to the rodeo, it's just so different. I don't know what happens. That's what happens. The atmosphere, the pressure, the mindset, the physical, like all the things. And even pro rodeo, and that's something that you see a lot of, especially where we're at in Texas, is these girls compete over and over and over again all week long. Like, if we have an off week, we're still trying to get a run at a rodeo somewhere where they're pulling the barrier and they're putting that pressure on us, so that it's a natural feel to where we're constantly exposed to those elements, where it's just another day and we're just roping. And so I think that that's one of the biggest truths that you just said, is putting yourself in those positions and getting behind a barrier, competing for money, whether it's, $50 or $500, however that may be, like just competing and getting yourself in that atmosphere. It's huge to prepare for events like these.
It is. And then I try to take it. We don't really have calves at our house because we rope. So I have small roping steers. They still have horns, but they're smaller. But then I'll come up here to the college and up the calves they have. So just getting those different looks, again, just to prepare yourself for what's coming. But then also the team roping. I'm going to rope in the Last Chance qualifier for that. Might as well throw my hat in and try to qualify, but also nominate for the next year and get a jump start on next year.
And I'm glad you said that. That's the biggest thing, is getting a jump start and starting. The year stops April 13th. So the year is over then. And then we're starting off in 2026. So getting that head start. There's so many women that are a part of it today. I love to see how competitive it is. And it's not just like a couple girls that have nominated bigger events that get in. This is an all-year race it's turned into. And I love to see that for the Women's Rodeo World Championships. It's something that we do all year long. We're nominating for. We're trying to calculate what jackpots we need to go to and where we need to nominate. But yeah, showing up at the Cowgirl Gathering and getting that, securing your spot either for this year and or, like you said, nominating for next year, I think is a big deal. And who doesn't want to be in Fort Worth for a few days? It's always fun here.
It's fun.
It's fun. All right. So we're going to wrap it up with, I'm sure you've heard of these, Fancy's Burning Questions. We talk about these all the time. They're so much fun. So we have a little bit. Lindsay Sumter helps us put these together. And so here we go. Fancy's Burning Question number 1. If you were not an athlete, what would you be doing?
I'm probably doing what I would be doing. Working in higher ed sounds boring, but it's not. I really love to problem solve and troubleshoot, and this job gives me that on a daily basis. I joke, though, and say if I wasn't doing this, I would do what you're doing, Jordan Joe, and I would be on the road, seeing how it is and being on the fun and trying to be pro. Or I would do something random like coach basketball. Who knows?
Who knows? I love it. It's a variety. We don't know. And you still might do those things. There's no telling. You set your mind to it. It sounds like you go after it.
Retire and go on the road. We'll see.
Well, there you go. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it for a second. Okay. Do you have any pregame rituals that you do?
For me, probably especially like in Breakaway, or if I ever do try to barrel race, I get pretty nervous because it's not my thing. I'm not as comfortable with it. So for me, I'm just trying to calm myself, deep breath, things like that. But I also visualize. my run, and I visualize, in breakaway, hitting the barrier, making sure I get to my spot. What does my loop look like? What is my follow through? So I really try to go through that. I do that in team roping, and it seems to work well, especially on the heading side. So just trying to get your mindset in what you're about to do and calm yourself and, not make the moment bigger than it needs to be. It really is just the next run, which is sometimes hard to do, especially when there's that big money up. But I also don't want to project my anxiety onto my horse, because I want him to be calm and him to be working. And so, like I said, I do my best to try to kind of stay calm, visualize, and just take the next run as it comes to you.
I love that. Okay, if your horse could say something to you, what would it be and why?
In breakaway, it'd be like, please sit in the saddle and stop catching your balance on my reins, please.
Oh, I love that. What is your go-to attire for that day of breakaway competition? Is it like a special socks, special underwear?
Yeah, I don't know about special. I do have this pair of spurs that my husband made me when I got my doctorate that say never weaken, so I'm always wearing those. I do have my my hat, and I have to have my signature New Mexico
Your
feather
feathers.
on it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I got to have a little bit of flair with the lightning bolt on the back, so I got to get my little rebel kind of going.
I love it.
Yeah.
If you could pick any team roping partner, who would it be and why?
Oh, it would be my husband, of course. It's just fun to do things together, and and if you win team roping together, you bring all the money home. So it's always been a family thing for me. My mom ropes, also my brother, my nephew. So I would pick them, of course.
I love it.
First choice.
Okay. If, and we'll just say when you get to rope at AT&T, what would you do if you won the 60,000?
Whoa. Honestly, I would do boring adult stuff, and I would get the facelift on my house that I've been wanting. I would just put it in motion, and we're doing it. That might sound boring to some people, but it's amazing. Trust me.
I get it.
One day you'll be excited about things like this.
I get it. The older I get, I'm like, ooh, that would look good in my house. Yeah.
I want to do a certain rock and a certain roof, so I've got it in my mind.
You've got it in your mind. That's not where I saw that going, but I love it. Okay, and if you could do one thing different, if you could tell your younger self anything different, what would that be and why?
Just in general or in competition?
It can be in any application you want it to be.
If I could do one thing different, I'm really good in my job of kind of taking things as they come and being flexible and pivoting and not taking things so serious. I'm a little bit intense sometimes. If I could do that in the arena on my horse, and you always hear the joke between headers and heelers are kind of like hang 10 surfers, just let it roll. They forget pretty easy. I would like to do that a little bit better. Sometimes I get stuck in trying to be too perfect because I don't compete all the time. I fall into this trap of I only have so much time, so I've got to be perfect because I'm not going to have as much opportunity. Don't do that. Don't build it up to something bigger than it needs to be. Just, you hear people say have fun with it. Right, but I want to win. So also just work hard at it, but set those milestone moments so that you can say, yeah, I'm getting better. I'm doing this better. I'm riding my horse better. I'm getting to my spot. I'm actually taking my shot. And then it will come and you will make it to the pay window if you just keep plugging away.
I love that. That is great advice. And I feel like a lot of us can relate to that same issue. And again, it doesn't matter. I did a Bible study a while ago with a group of ladies that I compete with a lot. And as we're going through this Bible study, we asked some pretty tough questions. And their answers were similar to mine in the doubts, the unbeliefs, the fears, all the things that you think, oh, that person never experiences that. Well, turns out we all do. No matter what level you're competing at, no matter what it is, there is a point in time when we all experience those certain things. And just for me to hear that from other people, I was like, wow, it's not just me. People do that even at this level. Are you sure? So I want to say to anybody out there listening, at any level you compete at, that happens. And it, like you said, it's learning how to adapt and control and step into that place and try to emphasize that a little bit more and let go of that perfection. So I love that answer. That was a great answer.
Because one thing I like about the podcast is you get to hear the experiences of of the people that you look up to, and you realize, okay, they're facing some of the same things that I am. So it kind of makes it a little more real for you, a little more achievable when you hear those things.
100%. Well, you're a doctorate in the office, and then you're fixing to doctor some calves out there in the breakaway. So
Yep.
can't wait to watch you compete at the WRWC 2025 this year. Thank you so much for coming on the In the Loop podcast and talking all things women's rodeo for us. We can't wait for Women's Rodeo Week. It's going to be phenomenal, and I can't wait to see you there. Thank you for joining us today on In the Loop.
Thank you, Jordan Joe. Looking forward to it.